8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Manchester United have reached the promised land.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's Monday. You saw me yesterday. You saw me on Saturday. It's been a busy weekend. It really is I think I've been saying this every single morning for the last 6, 7 weeks now. It really is busy at Manchester United. The club is going through such an almost unprecedented amount of change in terms of everything that goes on behind the scenes, in terms of everything that we hope will happen this summer with new transfers and new signings. But yesterday, we were hit. If we're being completely honest, not all of us were massively surprised at the idea that Ralf Rangnick has left the club, given that he's been ostracized and sort of sidelined and never really given a clear role, a consultant's role that now doesn't exist. We spoke about it yesterday in the reaction. Now that I've had time to sleep on it, time to think about it, I've got a few things I want to say this morning, and I want you to let me know what you think about it. If you've had a little bit of time to reflect on the news that broke yesterday, what's your reaction? Let me see who's down there in the comments. Bruce, good to see you this morning. Sigmund, good to see you there as well. Azat, Sar, and I can see you there too. And there's lots and lots of regulars. Aaron, Stefan, Peter, Jedi, Paula, Sanka. Good morning to all of you. Simon, Dean, Vicky, Helgon, lots and lots of you, and Sam Rawlinson too. How are you all doing? Hey, look, you saw my opinion yesterday that I came with straight away. I don't want to use the word emotional because I wasn't emotional. I didn't go sit there and have a cry because of the fact that Ralf Rangnick's left the club. I was frustrated and I was a bit angry. I still stand by the fact that I'm a bit frustrated and I'm a bit angry. And I think it's because of this. Because I think this is a narrative that's really going to get pushed now. Remember this? So this is Simon Stone from the BBC. Given today's development, I'm not sure there are any positives to take from Ralf Rangnick's appointment. Team didn't improve. He didn't seem to enjoy it. A bit of a waste, really. And now all we've got really in the public eye to speak about when it comes to Ralf Rangnick is this. The lowest points per game and the lowest win percentage of any manager in the Premier League. And this is a narrative which I don't think tells the truth. Yes, it does from the footballing perspective. But I'm not upset at the idea that Ralf Rangnick has left the club from a footballing perspective. Just like I wasn't that excited about Ralf coming in to the club from a footballing perspective. My excitement there was not based on that. Daniel, you've joined as a member this morning. Let me know. Let me know where you're watching from, mate, and I'll try and give you a shout out. But I said this yesterday, okay? I absolutely stand by this. I said in Ralf Rangnick, Manchester United hired somebody with a proven track record of building clubs. Now, some of you may say, Sam, look, this is United. We don't need to be built like Hoffenheim does. We don't need to be built like Red Bull Leipzig does. Yes, I would agree with that. But we need to be rebuilt in the modern image. We're a club stuck in the past. Absolutely stuck in the past. We're a nostalgic FC. So I think we do need to be rebuilt. And there was a lot that we could have learned from Ralf Rangnick, right? This is what, as I said, I'm going to speak for about 3, 4, 5 minutes and I'll head down to the comments. I've been thinking about this quite a lot. I struggled really with the name of the video, with what I was going to say today, because there's so much that ultimately we don't know at this moment in time. All right. And I try not to make too many assumptions. So I want to try and get a bit more clarity on this situation as it develops. But we were speaking about it this morning. As I said, let me go back into this. I said, look, we hired somebody in Ralf Rangnick who had a proven track record of building clubs and had done so on more than one occasion. Then we asked him to be a manager, I think he only managed, out of the last 10 years of his career, he'd only managed a football team for 18 months of those. The other 8.5 years, he was in sporting director roles, leading the structure and the organization and the planning of clubs rather than the football on the pitch. Lo and behold, he wasn't a good manager. Who could possibly have seen that coming? We all hoped that we were going to get the 4-2-2 system. I was dead excited. Of course I was excited. I've done a lot of research into it before it happened. It felt like a smart decision by the club. Ultimately, the players, either he was not good enough to coach those players into playing that system. That's part of it. Second of all, the players didn't want to adhere to that system. They looked at him clearly as a supply teacher. So it was just a long list of disconnects. I think the only person who really probably could have succeeded in that interim role was probably Michael Carrick. Captain Hindsight here. We definitely would have been better from a footballing perspective. I think we knew this anyway. We would have been better We would have had a better second half of the season if Carrick had stayed on as interim manager. But would we be better? Would we be in this situation now with Erik ten Hag? Probably too as well. It's just, that's the thing. It's just a whole load of confusion now has sprung to the surface. Confusion that we'd hoped to have been buried because we had seen the club make good decision after good decision after good decision. And this is, I suppose, a bit of a curveball. I appreciate I'm going to start waffling here. I appreciate that. But let me get this out. And then I'll go down to the comments. I'll read what you're saying. I said, look, and then we asked Ralf Rangnick to leave before he was given a chance to do what he is good at. It's peak United. And I thought about it long and hard. And I thought this sort of sums it. I think this paragraph sums up the whole Ralf Rangnick situation. So Ralf Rangnick at Manchester United. He was the right man and the right mind in the wrong job at the wrong time. And I didn't mean to make that rhyme. It's another situation which reflects poorly on how the club is run when it comes to long-term planning. And this is something I really do stand by. Because I think we've lost a good voice inside the club there in Ralf Rangnick. Whether or not he had any influence, whether or not he would have been consulted properly, whether or not he would have actually steered planning and steered direction. We'll never know at this point. But if we take a step back here, there's three possible explanations for this situation. For Ralf Rangnick leaving the club, there are three situations and explanations. Number one, Manchester United have sacked him. Number two, Ralf Rangnick has walked away. Number three, Erik ten Hag didn't want Ralf Rangnick as part of his Manchester United setup. And I'll be completely honest, I think all three of them are correct. I really question, I'm very, very suspicious about this, if I'm being completely honest, about whether Manchester United ever planned to give this man a consultancy role. I really, really question whether we ever did. There was never any clarity on the role. The role was never involved in the first offer to Ralf Rangnick. It was only when he asked for it that the club agreed to it. It was never formalized into a proper position with a proper title, with a proper job description. It was only last month that there was any sort of clarity on what that role might be. And apparently it was to do with transfers. So I'm not sure whether the club ever intended to truly give it to him and whether they basically used him as an interim manager position to give the club time to go after Erik ten Hag. That strikes me as probably the most likely scenario. And therefore, the second situation of Ralf Rangnick wanting to leave the club is a direct consequence of number one, of United not giving the clarity on that role. So both of those are true. Ralf Rangnick at that point is probably saying, I'm not going to be kept here for 6 days a month. I'm going to go and look for another job. Cool, I've got the Austria job. And at that point, he considered it untenable. But the third, and I suppose the most important point here, is that Erik ten Hag clearly did not want Ralf Rangnick at Manchester United. You saw it from his body language. You saw it from his response in his first press conference saying, look, it's on the club. I spoke to Guido, and I will speak to Guido in more depth, hopefully get him on for an interview. Erik ten Hag didn't want Ralf at United. Therefore, I have to support the decision of Ralf Rangnick leaving. If that's what Erik ten Hag wants, in the same way, I'm not going to be a hypocrite here and say something different to what I've been saying the whole time. Erik ten Hag has got his decisions. If he wants Steve McClaren, I want Steve McClaren. If he doesn't want Ralf Rangnick, then I don't want Ralf Rangnick at the club. I don't want Erik ten Hag to have to jump through loopholes and procedure that he doesn't want to. It's Erik ten Hag's United. And I think all three of those are correct at the same time. I think United never really wanted Rangnick in a consultancy role. I think Ralf Rangnick himself decided to walk away from the job, and I think Erik ten Hag didn't want him. That's the way I'm looking at it. Now that I've had time to not chill, but, think about it from yesterday. That's what I've been thinking about. And for me, that makes sense. And I've now, this week, want to try and do some deep diving, try and speak to a few people, try and get some clarity on this situation. Because I don't think we'll probably get... Look, you might get it from Ralf. He might speak out in public, but he's going to take over from the Austria job straight away. So I don't think he will. Red Smurf, thank you very much, man. What are you saying? Love the display pic, by the way. He's saying Ralf was like an antivirus. He was installed to clean up United's problems. Once he pointed them out, United's board didn't appreciate being called out for their incompetence. That I absolutely believe is true. Of course, what boss likes being called out in public by people they are paying? That was never that was never going to be something that boded well for Ralf Rangnick. But for United fans, it was something that really, really got us on side with him, got us supporting him. And as I said, I don't want to get drawn into the comparisons between Mourinho was right. Yeah, but Mourinho, as I said, done it from a point of self-interest rather than helping Manchester United. I'm going to head down to the comments here and see what you're saying. Sankey, you're saying, look, I mean, they may have used his ideas for the club structure and even got a brief of transfer ideas in the final days. He may have left an imprint on it after all. Who knows? That, for me, is something that I absolutely do think is correct and true. And that's what I said. Sean, you're saying, isn't it a tad arrogant by Erik ten Hag? It's absolutely arrogant. But arrogance can't always be construed as a negative. Arrogance comes from self-confidence. And if you back up that arrogance by doing what you say you're going to do, then it shows that it's not just arrogance. It's like, wow, shit, that guy's actually good at what he's doing. It was like Conor McGregor before he got absolutely done over in the UFC. He had such an arrogance going into the ring, but he backed it up with win after win after win. And everyone's like, well, you can't say anything if they're delivering. And ultimately, that's what Erik ten Hag will have to do now. And I think the reason I'm worried about it is because I know what this club does. I know how this club operates. And I hope that this club starts to operate differently under Erik ten Hag and that we see a new look Manchester United, right? I just fear it won't be. And I thought that Ralf Rangnick could have been a protective layer. Could have been the condom for Erik ten Hag, whatever you want to call it. The protection from the bacteria of the Glazers. That's what I felt that he could be. But I suppose when you step back and think about that, how can a man who's managing the Austrian national team for and being consulted over the phone for 6 days a month truly do that? The whole look, I don't like it at all. For me, it's just another situation, as I said right there, which reflects on how badly Manchester United are run when it comes to long-term planning. And maybe that's just me looking at it from a naive or the wrong point of view. Maybe the club simply just used Ralf Rangnick to give them time to get Erik ten Hag in. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing about what has happened since November to now because Erik ten Hag is our manager. Because I think we've got the right manager in charge. And I do think that the changes behind the scenes have helped United. But this really, I said this yesterday, John Murtough really, really is... He's getting himself into a hell of a powerful position at Manchester United. Really is. It's good the fact that he's at Carrington and not at the Mayfair offices in London because it means that the Murtough will hopefully be allowed to do more of the day-to-day thing, be involved more in the day-to-day thing, and hopefully make the process run a bit smoother. But John Murtough with Steve, I think he's going to be working with Steve Brown on transfers because Jim Lawler and Marcel Bout have left. Ralf Rangnick has now left. Matt Judge has now left. And he's absorbing all those positions of power. Let's find out if it works. I'm not here to say this is an absolute calamity of a decision by Manchester United. It's just not one that I particularly agree with. I think that Manchester United, they brought in a man there who really had a reputation and a brilliant track record of building clubs, of building structures that exist in clubs long after that he's left the club. You still look at Leipzig and still they're repeating the sort of processes that he implemented. And I've felt like that sort of overall long-term vision, that sort of mind is what we do not have at United because it's so busy on a day-to-day process. We don't have anybody at the club at the moment that takes his head up and looks up and goes, where do we want to be in 3-5 years' time? And making sure every decision that we're doing adheres to that. That's what John Murtough is doing. And that's why I worry about the idea that he's absorbing all this power because they are two different roles. The day-to-day management of our football club as a football director is a job in itself, as is somebody who overall is the architect of the vision. They're two different things. And look, if you've ever run your own business or ever done anything like that, it's very hard to do both at the same time. It really is. Ray, you're saying it's sad and shocking Ralf is gone, but if ten Hag believes he's got this, I will back that. And as I said, this is putting more pressure on Erik ten Hag, but it's pressure that he's put on himself. It is. Because this decision would not have happened if ten Hag did not give it the nod. It's not like he's the executioner, but he's a manager who went through a long, long list of negotiations with Manchester United before he took the job in the first place. Imagine after all of that, that the club had, out of nowhere, behind his back, got rid of Ralf Rangnick. That would be the single worst possible way to start. And I don't think that happened, all right? I don't think that happened. John, you're saying, look, I don't agree with you on this, which I rarely do. And I'll be completely honest here, right? This is obviously something that's really going to split opinion. There are quite a lot of United fans that are simply coming from this point of view. There are quite a lot of United fans that are just looking at the football and thinking, good God, get him out of the goddamn club. Don't want him anywhere near. And that's where I would disagree, because I've never looked at Ralf first and foremost as a football manager at Manchester United. And that's why I said that. I think he was probably the right man in the right mind, put in the wrong position at Manchester United, put in the wrong position at the wrong time at Manchester United. Had we brought Ralf Rangnick in as a true footballing director, a true sporting director to work alongside John Murtough this whole time, and Michael Carrick stayed in as an interim manager until the end of the season, maybe things could have worked out a lot differently. Man United since 82 saying he kind of gave up on coaching at the end, gave players far too much time off. For me, he wasn't a coach, though. He's a club builder, which is what we need. Man, it is what it is. That's something I do agree with, and it's why I'm annoyed with the decision, why I will stand by the fact that I'm annoyed by the decision. But I would also say, if it's what Erik ten Hag wants, it's what Erik ten Hag gets. And we have to stand by that, right? Red Smurf, saying, if the board give Erik ten Hag what he wants, then United will turn a corner, even without Ralf. But that's only if they give Ten Hag everything, and that's what I find hard to believe. Red Smurf, you're not, again, that's going to be a big part of, we're now in a situation again, ultimately, where it's a manager in a nest of vipers. Hopefully, he's got another person alongside him on the platform, and that's John Murtough. And I'll be honest, I think John Murtough has done enough so far to earn credit with the United fans that he does genuinely want what we want to a certain degree, and also executes it and does it. I told you, I've already done a video early this summer, must have been like 2-3 weeks ago, on the new structure at Manchester United. I'm going to have to do another one. Ralf Rangnick's gone now. It looks like it's going to be John Murtough with Steve Brown sort of leading the transfers. Steve Brown, who is Steve Brown? Should he be there? I'll do a video on that. But look, if there's one thing that we all, I suppose, appreciated from Ralf Rangnick when he was at the club, it was his pure, unfiltered honesty about everything, from every player to the board to the structures behind the scenes at Manchester United, and everything that was required. The open heart surgery that he said that we needed. And he's absolutely correct to say. That's why we felt that him being a voice alongside Erik ten Hag would have been a supportive voice. But that voice isn't there. And if we're looking at how this has sort of unfolded, Erik ten Hag never met him at Selhurst Park. That was a bit of a warning sign, I suppose. Erik ten Hag never met him in Manchester when he came to the club. Again, another warning sign. Erik ten Hag said it was down to the club in his first press conference. Another warning sign. But if there's one thing I wanted Ralf Rangnick to do, he's been so honest and brutal, really, with everything that's gone on behind the scenes. I wanted him to have that same sort of conversation with Erik ten Hag when it came to the players. And at the very least, that's happened. James Ducker isn't the only person to be reporting this. But Ralf Rangnick held a 2-hour phone call with Erik ten Hag. And I'm hoping inside that phone call that Ralf just let loose. Just let loose and explains to Ralf in detail every single player at that club, the pros and the cons, the things that he spotted in training, the patterns that he spotted in training. Because ultimately, Ralf Rangnick's been the person to come in and get his hands dirty. He's gone knee deep in the mud, and he's uncovered everything. He's done the detective work so that Erik ten Hag can come in now and just be ruthless. He will always make up his own mind, but at the very least, they had that 2-hour conversation. Vincent, you're saying you're right. Erik ten Hag circled the wagons around the team. It helped the trust and performance, but at the same time, he demanded everything from them. I thought particularly sure exactly what you mean there, but Erik ten Hag at Ajax, he had a great working environment, didn't he? Erik ten Hag at Manchester United, he's got all the assistants in that he wants with him. He's got Mitchell van der Gag, he's got Steve McLaren, and we will be getting one more first-team coach. We don't know who that's going to be at this particular moment in time. It looks like Eric Ramsey's staying at the club. It looks like Martin Harris, I think it is. Our goalkeeping coach is going to be staying at the club. Mike Phelan's going to be leaving, and Ralf Rangnick is going to be leaving. I don't know. Well, God damn it. Why is it that people love... You can get blocked. Toodle pip from the comments. Apologies about that. Lovely trolls in the morning. Look, I suppose it's good when you get trolls in the comments. It goes to show you're doing something right. But unfortunately, unlike other channels, we actually have conversation in the comments here. We actually interact with people, and you can get involved. Your choice. But look, yeah, I'm still a bit... I'm definitely... And look, let me read through a little bit of this article from James Ducker. There's a comment here coming in from Gungshi. What are you saying, sir? Said, I'm not sure the board has ever had any intention of giving a Ralf a job upstairs. And I'll be honest, Gungshi, that's something I'm starting to believe more and more and more. I think his honest comments may have hastened this firing, but the board were going to do it anyway, so to speak. I'm not sure that we ever really planned to give him the role. I think that was the carrot that we dangled in front of Rangnick. And by that, I mean, if we hadn't have lured Ralf Rangnick in with that carrot, he probably wouldn't have taken the job in the first place. And we found ourselves left between a rock and a hard place. I don't know when the club found out from Michael Carrick that he was going to be leaving. Obviously, it was a bit of a shock when it came out after the game. Was it Arsenal at home? It was Arsenal. I think it was Arsenal at home. And it was a big shock to everybody because he announced it after the game. I don't know when United knew that. But hey, look, in a few months' time, this may just be like, well, that didn't work out sort of situation. I will not look back on this Ralf Rangnick time with this mindset. This is my personal way of looking at this, right? I will not look back on Ralf Rangnick's time with this mindset. The idea that it was a waste of time, that there are no positives. Because that is purely looking at it from a position of watching the game start and watching the game finish, and that's all you're taking into account. And it really does not take into account what Ralf did, said, and in my opinion, how he helped change the narratives and the directions. As I said, he gave a voice to fans. And he did it in a way that I think helped change. Directly or indirectly. I'm going to be doing a separate video on this situation because I really want to think about what I'm saying rather than just doing it on a live stream. Morgan, you're saying a complete overreaction to all this. Erik ten Hag didn't want or need him there. Ten Hag wants to use and rely on his own staff. It's all for the best. Ultimately, that is a very true comment. The fact that if Ten Hag didn't want him, then Ten Hag didn't need him. But I think I personally feel like United have done Rangnick dirty. I think United have, again, this is just my opinion, just to clarify that before I say, I think United really have just used used Ralf Rangnick as nothing more than a stepping stone until Erik ten Hag. And I don't think we ever intended to give that consultancy role. Otherwise, there would have been far more clarity on that role from the beginning. Far more clarity. Red Smurf saying, keep it the good way. Allowing people on here to have an opinion without degrading them is a good thing. Thank you very much, mate. Look, if you're going to come in here and going to troll, you can get Tiffok, as he'd say in Glasgow. Well, you do it with a much better, much more firm accent than that. Nick, how you doing, buddy? You're saying it will be for the wrong reason, but I feel Erik distanced himself from Rangnick to get the players to like him, since most of them didn't like Rangnick. Ten Hag wants positivity, some amateur psychology, really. All right, I'll open it up to the board. What do you think about that? Everyone in the comments. I personally don't think that Ten Hag would do it for that reason. That's just my gut instinct. Ten Hag will make these decisions for himself and for himself only. I don't think he'll use ploys like that to try and garner positivity. I don't think he needs to do anything to garner positivity inside that dressing room. They don't deserve it. He doesn't owe them a fucking thing. So the idea that I think he would do that, I personally don't think so. Niranjan, you're saying, morning from New Zealand, Sam. I still want trust Murto with transfers. Don't want to end up with another window where we sign Fellaini and no one else due to bad negotiations. Look, right now, John Murto is leading the negotiations on transfers, is leading the transfers themselves, is leading the day-to-day running of our football club from a football director perspective, is leading the overall vision of our football club from a long-term vision perspective. And when you start talking about this, and when you start talking like that, you realize the scale and the scope of his job is effectively 2, maybe 3 jobs in one. And we can't do that. Let's not repeat the mistakes that we're doing. And that, again, is the reason why I felt that Rangnick and having him at the club, if we had given Ralf Rangnick the offer of that consultancy role full-time, and we had given that a few months ago, we wouldn't be in this situation. Maybe we wouldn't have had the collapse towards the end of the season that we would have had if Ralf really truly believed that he was going to be here for a little bit longer. It's just the best way. As I said, I've said it there at the start, and I'll say it now before I quickly do move on. He was in my opinion, he was the right man to bring to Manchester United, but we gave him the wrong job, and we did it at the wrong time. And it's just one more situation where Manchester United haven't done good long-term planning. And this has to be the end of it. This Rangnick situation, it has to be the end of something that the club can be pointed at and laughed at for when it comes to long-term planning. Erik ten Hag is the man who is now leading the charge, right? I would disagree with this completely, by the way. This doesn't, in my opinion, this doesn't change anything to do with getting any footballer in the world. No footballer was going to come to Manchester United simply because Ralf Rangnick was a consultant for 6 days a month. If he was there inside the club, working with the club, then yes, it would have been easier to have a conversation for him to ring that player and say, look, yeah, go to United, it'll be a good thing. And that would help. But it won't stop Manchester United signing Leipzig players. I would disagree with that. Jonathan, you're saying that Rangnick and Ten Hag, 2 headstrong characters, they are. Erik wants control, including recruitment. So Ralf Rangnick had a layer that he didn't need. Jonathan, you're completely right there. Ultimately, Ten Hag didn't want Rangnick. Getting rid of Rangnick was the right decision. Okay? Now that we can step back from yesterday, step back from the reaction, we can all agree on that point. If Ten Hag doesn't want him, then vamos. If Ten Hag doesn't want Ronaldo, vamos. If Ten Hag doesn't want Bruno Fernandes, then vamos. If Ten Hag doesn't want anybody, I will have to stand by it and say it's the right decision. Because he is creating the environment that he feels is necessary to succeed at Manchester United. So let's not undermine his decision straight away. But I think that it reached a point where it never needed to reach. And that comes down to the poor overall management of Manchester United and the structure of his job. Nick, you're saying I disagree, Sam. I think the board had more of a say of getting rid of Ralf than Ten Hag did. And that ultimately is where a lot of the fears and frustrations of United fans will remain. Whether or not you feel Erik ten Hag was the man to get rid of Ralf Rangnick, or whether you think it was the Glazers getting rid of Ralf Rangnick because they didn't want a dissident voice inside their ranks. That is just going to remain hearsay at this moment in time. Until somebody comes out with some real inside information as to what happened there, we can't know that, and we can't make assumptions about that. All right? But that's what it is. And I'll tell you what, there's some positives to speak about this morning. We're going to be speaking about Jurrien Timber now. It's transfers. It's about this new look Manchester United going under Ten Hag. It's just that, for me, I don't know. That Rangnick situation yesterday was just a bit of a curveball that I don't think the club needed. I don't think helps the club in the short term. Maybe in the long term, our structure is going to be set and done. But I don't think the changes are finished. I refuse to believe the changes are finished at Manchester United. This summer is this really will be the summer of change at 2022 will always be remembered as the summer of change at Manchester United. And the summer's not even fucking started yet. All the change that's happened behind the scenes, from Matt Judge, Jim Lawler, Marcel Bout, Charlie Brooks, the media chief. There was a head of player care as well. That person's left. Ralf Rangnick has now left. Mike Phelan's going to be leaving. Chris Armas is leaving. Sasha Lensei's leaving. What am I on? Like 10 names so far? We haven't even talked about transfers yet. Edinson Cavani's left, Paul Pogba, Juan Mata, Jesse Lingard, Nemanja Matic. Geez, I've got a lot of names in my head. Look at that. Didn't know that. And we haven't signed a player yet. And we still haven't signed a deputy director yet to work underneath John Murtough. It's insane, the amount of change. And we know that change was needed at the club. Let's just see if all these changes work out, right? Let's just see if all these changes work out. Brian, you're saying, look, I've been a United fan 50 years. I've never been more embarrassed to say until this season. I'm close to giving up on United in Premier League football. Well, Brian, that's your choice, my friend, but I will not be giving up on United anytime soon. And Fizz, you're saying maybe Rangnick disagrees on buying De Jong and Timber. Again, hearsay at that point. No one can prove that that's right or wrong. So there's no point making any sorts of assumptions there. Glenn, you're saying your concern is Steve McLaren. I know they've worked together before, and he has probably been brought on because of his United experience, but it was a different club then, so I'm not sure he brings anything. Again, with the McLaren situation, just like if it was Ten Hag with the Rangnick situation, if that's what Ten Hag wants, that should be what Ten Hag gets. But look, I'm definitely going to be doing another video on this Ralf Rangnick situation. I'm trying to speak to Guido. When I get the Guido interview, I'll have a conversation with him because I want to find out a bit more from Ralf Rangnick's point of view, because he's got a lot of supporters inside the United ranks, because a lot of us have been focusing on that, as I said, that long-term vision that Ralf Rangnick had and what he was implementing. And he was fucking exposing everything. He really was. And now he's gone. Let's head over and let's talk about transfers, right? Because we're not going to get bogged down in talking about, ultimately, geez, we moved on without Jaap Stam, without Roy Keane, without Erik Cantona, without David Beckham. I think we'll survive as a football club without Ralf Rangnick. It's just I feel that he could have really been a good voice inside the club. Ultimately, he won't be there. But let's move on and let's talk about transfers again. Actually, I'll tell you what. United is so bad right now. I really shouldn't mention what happened on Saturday night.
We're gonna do it anyway.
Unlucky! Come on, Real Madrid. Come on, Real Madrid. Hala Madrid indeed. Look at that. How spectacularly Jurgen Klopp has made himself look like a right dick speaking after the game. So fucking good. So good. Schadenfreude. Google the word Schadenfreude and use it. It's my favorite word in the world. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. TR, you're saying, not surprised if you see all the interviews of Rangnick. He said he will help only if Ten Hag wants. Ten Hag said since day one, he will talk to Rangnick and the board and see what Rangnick can do. It's a good separation. Let's find out. Let's find out, eh? Let's find out. But look, congratulations, Liverpool, on your quad. No, not your. Sorry, on your. No, not that. Okay, on your double. No, not really. On your two cups. Hey, look, we've been shit. I really shouldn't do it. I really should. But hell, man, football's about tribalism. You have to laugh at your rivals when they mess up. It did make my night, made my weekend. So close, but yet so far, and that is exactly why greatness should be talked about after the fact. Come to me when you've won 3 in a row. Not once, twice, 3 times. Gee, everybody can win a title once. Go and ask fucking Leicester. Idiots. Anyway, let's talk about transfers. We'll talk about this new positivity. As I said, we talked about the frustration of Ralf Rangnick, but ultimately, we've got Erik Ten Hag as our manager. And we are looking forward to next season as a real positive. Paul Hurst from the Times here, speaking about transfers at the weekend, he said, Jurrien Timber and Lisandro Martinez feature on Erik Ten Hag's shortlist, as does Anthony, and he mentions Matthijs de Ligt and Frenkie de Jong. You may as well call us Manchester Ajax. Ajax FC. I don't know what you want to call us, but that is a long list. A long list of Ajax players. Speaking of Ajax players, there's been a little bit of update for this morning from Mike Verwijde, who we all know is probably the most prominent voice when it comes to transfer news coming out of Holland. And he's saying what we all know and we all knew. Frenkie de Jong really is the number one name on Erik Ten Hag's transfer list. Now, whether or not we get him on, that's a bit by the by, right? It's a bit irrelevant, not irrelevant, but look, I said something on Twitter yesterday. I just remembered. Let me pull up this tweet because I explain it in a bit more detail. But Barcelona, they are in a tricky situation. They really are. And whether United do take advantage or not, we'll find out, won't we? Where is that tweet? There it is. This. Let me pull this up full screen so you can see it. You see down there at the bottom, it says Rashad Rahman, who's sort of the guy on Twitter for Barcelona, said, as of today, Barcelona will not be able to make any major movements or signings in the transfer window if they don't activate at least one economic lever. CVC, BLM, and Barca Studio sale. And look, as I said here, Barcelona will literally have to sell off parts of their club if they don't want to sell De Jong. BLM, what that is that's their licensing merchandising. They're trying to sell off a percentage of their overall licensing and merchandising to get a huge lump sum up front to balance their books. If that doesn't work, they're going to sell off Barca Studios. It's it's an events venue that's like 15 minutes from the Nou Camp. They're trying to sell that for money. If not, the CVC deal would be to do with Barcelona selling a percentage of their overall broadcast TV revenue rights up front. Barcelona are desperate to get an influx of cash. And that is why Erik ten Hag is sitting there. Actually, no, I'm not sure. No, actually, I think it is. It's all part and parcel. But he really does believe that he can get Frenkie de Jong. Is there any news on what we have supposedly offered them for Frenkie de Jong? Well, I covered those stories. What was it? Saturday morning? When was it? Saturday? I can't remember when it was. I covered the stories from Spain saying that Manchester United had agreed a fee with Erik ten Hag. Fabrizio Romano has always said that fee is 80 million euros. It seems like a lot, in my opinion, given the desperation of Barcelona. But if they don't want to sell off part of their club, like literally, we're talking about selling a percentage of their broadcast revenues for the last 10 years. That's such a weird deal. I'm guessing it will be sort of an unprecedented deal. I don't know any clubs that have done that before. They are literally thinking of anything possible to get an influx of cash. That's how bad their situation is. Someone will get De Jong for a good price if they will wait. And I do agree with that. And that's the catch-22, isn't it? That really is a catch-22. This is a game. This is a waiting game. This is a game of chicken between United and Barcelona. We know they need money. We know that if they don't get one of these deals here over the line, the only alternative they have is selling someone like De Jong. And there is no other player inside that Barcelona squad who could get that sort of money. There was a comment there that I saw from a member. Let me read that one out. Brent, you're saying, not that Brent, new member here. I'm back in hospital again. Oh, I'm not laughing at that. I'll be doing well, buddy. Thankfully, I had this show to keep me company. Well, I hope you're getting better in there, my friend. I hope you're a better Brent. There's only one Brent anyway. We got David Brent. Sandeep, shouldn't this make negotiations easier? This would be like another Arthur Melo deal if he were forced out of the club. Yeah, it's a good comparison there to draw up the Arthur Melo situation. I know people want to think that this really is a situation where Manchester United will not sign Frenkie de Jong. But Ten Hag has got such a confidence about him that's given me a bit of confidence. Again, I'm believing and backing my manager up there. There he is. Woohoo. I'm believing and backing him. And if he really didn't think that he could get Frenkie de Jong, I think it would have ended by now. I think it would have stopped by now. Jonathan, you're saying I'll be alarmed. I would be alarmed to see him sign and get 375. We haven't learned if this happens. I don't know what his wages would be. Again, that's just hearsay at this particular moment in time. I mean, Bruno's just signed a deal for what, 250 roughly? Could Frenkie really expect to come in and command more than that? I don't personally think so. There was a comment there. I'll give you a shout out. Go on there, Ken. Why not? Watching from Thailand. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. But another player here from Ajax that we're all, and it's not, yeah, well, this is from the current Ajax team, and that is Jurrien Timber, right? Jurrien Timber's representatives, this has come from Mike Vivage as well, have been spotted in London last week at Manchester United's international office where big transfers are being discussed. Timber is a big favourite of Erik ten Hag, and much is being done to sign him. Again, this should be no surprise to anybody. I think if we're going to sign one player from Ajax this summer, it really is going to be Jurrien Timber. What do you think? Type yes or no. You can let me know what you think about Jurrien Timber. But for me, that strikes me as the most likely signing from Ajax if we are to make one. Maybe we won't. Obviously, they've already lost Gravenberch. They've lost Mazraoui. They've lost their manager. If they're going to hold on to the rest of their squad, at least for this summer, maybe they won't get rid of him. But I personally think that we will. Well, I think if we're going to sign anybody from them, it'll be that. And what you're saying here, the combination of Ten Hag bigging up our current players and the Glazers screwing over Ralf tells me one thing: it's business as usual. Nothing is going to change. I'm not going to come in with as cynical and as strong a view as that at all. I don't think I'm not encouraging that here on United People's TV whatsoever. I'm not encouraging any positive on the Glazers. Jesus Christ, I've just done a video on Friday exposing the increasing level of debts. So you can't. No one's going to come here and try and call me a Glazer sympathizer. I hope there is change under Erik ten Hag. I fear a little bit more about what that change is, and that's what that comment is driven by. It's fear. It's like, come on, man. Is this United going to be repeating the same mistakes over and over again? May well. They may well be. Fingers crossed it's not that. Fingers crossed that John Murtough really is better than we keep not giving him credit for. Because he's done a lot of good. He has done a lot of good. I just don't think he should be juggling that sort of... He needs more support. Just like Erik ten Hag needs more support inside that board. He needs more protective layers before the Glazers infect him. Hardship. What are you saying? Sam, who would have a bigger impact on our squad, De Jong or Kante? Easy, De Jong. Simple. Simple as that. Kante would be... I mean, look, I was going to speak about it later. I can pull it up now. Oh, look, there's two of me on the screen. Woo! I did a video on Kante at the weekend, and there was over 500 comments on the video. Kante really is a situation that is what? 4 years too late? Roughly. Like, come on, United. Come on, United. The reason I'm saying that Frenkie de Jong would have more of an impact at United is because of Erik ten Hag's system. If you're just looking at that starting 11 and you're putting Kante in there and you're just looking at what that team might do on the pitch, Kante would have more of an impact. Overall, the impact of Frenkie de Jong would reverberate much deeper than that starting 11 in terms of how all the other players accept and understand that system. De Jong's presence would make that far better. De Jong would be the playmaker from... De Jong would add he's got so many facets as to why he would be a strong addition to Manchester United that Kante simply doesn't have. This I don't disagree with whatsoever. Kante, without a doubt, is what we need. Yes, but I think a lot of you are underestimating how long and how difficult the process is going to be for Erik ten Hag's system to be embedded and become second nature to these players. That's why someone like Frenkie de Jong could be such a valuable signing to United. I think so anyway. Some really positive news from yesterday, right? This is cool. Well done to James Garner. Well done to Nottingham Forest. They're back in the Premier League. Back in the Premier League? I think it's the first time they've been in the Premier League. Anyway, no, it's not. 99, was it 99 they were here last time? Congratulations to them. And congratulations to James Garner, man. His assist in the final, an absolutely wicked whip ball, caused an own goal. One of those balls that literally you cannot defend. Play well. Fair play. He's had a cracking season on loan. I want you to let me know in the comments now. Type stay or go. Do you... No, maybe don't type stay or go. That's the stupid thing to type in. But there's two situations here. Number one, James Garner comes back to Manchester United and he plays inside the squad next season and he becomes part of the midfield setup. Sometimes on the bench. Or do you think he should be going back on loan to Nottingham Forest and getting a full Premier League season under his belt? Because you can't really underestimate how important that would be to James Garner's development. Really, really would be. But at the same time, he's developed into a fantastic player already. Should Manchester United be taking advantage of that? Let me go down here and see what you're thinking, right? Simon, you think he should go out on loan? Stu, you're saying I'll go on loan. I want him to stay, but he probably needs more game time for a season. Loan again, he's too young. I mean, he's not too young. 21. Geez, what is it? Camavinga's 19 and playing in Champions League finals, obviously from the bench. But Jedi saying, God, I can become a United legend. Well, that was a bit extreme. Back to Forest for a year of Premier League football. A year on loan. Quite a lot of you are still saying stay as well. I think, given United have no midfield whatsoever, I want James Garner to stay. But this is one of those situations where what's best for James Garner? Playing week in, week out with Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. I think that much is obvious. What would help Manchester United more is having actual midfielders in our squad. But it's whether you think you're going to stunt that growth. Look, there you go, Simpson. It's a perfect example. Foden's 21, but look, he did come in into a Guardiola team. It's a little bit different, but I understand exactly what you mean. Garner gets pre-season and sold for 20 to 25 mil. That's what I predict. I don't think we'll sell him. I think we would probably regret selling him. I don't know. But look, back to that Kante conversation. The Kante conversation is very strict. Kante and Lema. Perfect example of where Manchester United previously have made signings and where Manchester United probably should be making and looking signings. On the one hand, we've got a 31-year-old World Cup, Premier League, multiple winner in N'Golo Kante. One of the best players in the world when he is fit. Has been one of the, if not the best midfielder in the world for the last 5 years. Incredible. On the other hand, you've got Konrad Lema. A guy who at 24, 25 has been coming through at Leipzig. Somebody who's not really on that top table yet, but somebody who's got bags of talent and age on his side. They're two very different types of signings. Man United of old would have signed N'Golo Kante. The Man United going forward should be looking more towards a player like Lema. That's what I think. N'Golo Kante could work out, but shit me, so could Radamel Falcao. So could, and so there's, geez, there are so many players you can add to that list. I can't be bothered to run through it. That's what I think. So anyway, I think that Lema should be in this situation. We should be going there. And I think it would actually be cheaper as well. It'd be like 15, 20 million. It would just be very, very United to go after N'Golo Kante and sign him. Him be great for 3 games, then be out for 6 weeks with a niggling knee injury. Then come back for 4 games, be brilliant, and then be out before our crucial game away at Liverpool, and then we've got to play Scott McTominay in midfield. You can see how how the narrative's going to go. United need to be looking younger and hungrier with years ahead of them, rather than players who are in their prime or on the way down. And N'Golo Kante falls in that category. And the fact of the matter is, if Chelsea are willing to let him go, then Chelsea are going to spend money to sign a better player than him right now. It is what it is. Simon, I think he was never my top choice, but I think given what we're spending, where we're likely to spend our money this summer, I think he could really be at 15, 20, 25 million euro even, maybe. And still that's cheap. A signing that could come into this United team and really, really improve our options. If you haven't watched it, I did an interview that I released on Saturday, was it? Saturday afternoon, I think it was. Yeah, it was. With Adam Kahn, a German football expert, lives in Germany, lived there his whole life. Fantastic insight, really, into Nkunku, into Lema, and Mukiele, 3 Leipzig players who we're heavily linked with. And as I said, I personally think that Ralf Rangnick leaving the club doesn't affect whether those happen or not. Tim, you're saying if Kante was on a free, would you want him? Well, obviously. I mean, everybody would. That's kind of a rhetorical question. Jonathan, you think we're signing 2 defenders and 1 midfielder and a centre forward? The video I'm probably going to do at lunchtime today, I don't want to get buried in the Ralf Rangnick negativity. All right? I'm somebody who will always try and look forward, look for a positive angle when it comes to reporting on United. If there's negativity, I'm going to report it. All right? I'm not going to ignore it, the elephant in the room. But I want to wait until I know a little bit more before I do my sort of inside story video on the Rangnick situation. When I like to hopefully speak to Guido, I'll bring him on for an interview. But I'll probably do my video today on Ten Hag's actual priorities. Jonathan, there, you think we're signing 2 defenders. I think we already know what the priorities are, and we're seeing it unfold now. There's an article from Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic that's run through that. We need at least 10 players. Jeez, sod knows what we need, man. DWM, you're saying, look, would love a fit Kante, but his injuries are at a similar level to Pogba's. We need consistency in midfield. I absolutely know that we need consistency. I don't... Kante for me is a no, because if we're looking at the market and if there was nobody else in the market and we were stuck between a rock and a hard place and we can't possibly look elsewhere, Kante would be a brilliant signing. But the Lema situation, they should both be compared, and when you literally put them next to each other and weigh them up, Lema quite easily. Look, last 5 minutes, as I always do on every single stream, I answer your questions. I've tried to be as interactive as possible this morning. I'll be honest, this is a really tough thing to talk about. Not tough is the wrong word to describe it. It's a difficult situation to talk about United because I know that he's been a shit coach, right? I know that he's been a shit interim manager, but I do not think he's been a bad person at the club. I think he's been a positive influence at the club, but Erik ten Hag didn't want him, and I stand by what Erik ten Hag wants, and I will do. It's his Manchester United he has to set up. If he doesn't want Ralf to be part of that, he doesn't want Ralf to be part of that. Jonathan, you'll disagree with me saying take a step back. Kante is what we need. Proven winner and like having two players. Yes, if he stays fit, you are right. And I suppose you could say that about everybody, but you're looking at a man that Chelsea would be willing to let go because they go out and sign someone better than him. It's like signing Schweinsteiger. It's like signing Hargreaves. It's like signing, I don't know, players that clubs think they can replace. I don't know. Daniel was saying, watching from Iceland. How you doing, buddy? If you could pick your top 3 signings, who would they be? Well, my top 3 signings would be Tchouaméni, it would be Tim Burton and Nkunku, I imagine. But I don't think we're going to be getting Tchouaméni, and Nkunku could happen. Let me go down here. Bayern is going to get Lamer. Well, they might do. Look, you can say what you want about Kante. I'm not going to get into an argument in the comments about Kante. Geez, I've already done a video on Kante. I disagree with Kante's signing right now when there are other options on the market who are younger and up and coming. They are the players that we need to build this team around. Maybe Kante can come in and be a stopgap bridge between now and Declan Rice next year for 80 to 100 million instead of the 150 million that West Ham are ridiculously asking for. Maybe that's right. And maybe I'll be proven wrong. Kante will come in. And if Kante turns into the Kante that we all know and love, it'd be amazing. Would be amazing. But it's not. I don't think it's the smartest thing to do. It will be a very old school United type signing. The sort of signings I think we need to move away from. That's a personal opinion. All right. But I'm not here. Sorry. I'll write this one up today. So I'm just going to start getting into arguments in the comments. I don't want to do that. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you very much for interacting as you always do every morning. Look, if you are new, I genuinely try and interact. You can try and troll in the comments if you want, but trolling is not really how United People's TV operates. If you want to go and do that, there are other channels you can go and do that on. If you want to come here for actual conversation and debate, this is the channel for you. Thank you very much for joining in this morning. I'll be here later on today with my other video that I always bring out at lunchtime. And I'll be here tomorrow morning at 9:30. Unless United decide to sack somebody else this afternoon, then I'll probably be back again. And you can't rule that out. But anyway, take it easy, everybody. I'll speak to you soon.